Fire is the perfect symbol for the way that man creates order, and he always has. You have a group of men and they're traveling to a place. They could be warriors on a campaign, they could be hunters taking a break, they could be frontiersmen or explorers, or maybe just campers. Think about what fire does. It's just not something that we cook food with. Fire replaces the sun. Fire is our way of creating something solar, our way of creating solar order in the world. You know, the sun provides light and warmth, and so does a fire. You know, the sun is really just a ball of fire, right? And light does more than just, say, light up a room. If you look at what light actually does, light makes things possible to understand. You can see the dimensions of things, you can see their boundaries. You can identify things, that's wood. And you can see it creates a perimeter of light, much like the perimeter I talked about in the way of men. Everything that the fire lights up is known, it's knowable. You can pick it up, you can see it, understand it. But outside the perimeter of light, that light, you have chaos, confusion. You don't know what's out there. It's dark, it's unknowable. And so it's a perfect symbol for the way that men create order in the world and in their lives. It's a symbol of the way they create culture. Again, to use the sun as a reference, if you've ever seen anybody around a campfire, they kind of orbit around it and they gravitate towards it. And it is their point of reference, it's their point of orientation in the universe. For that night, that campfire is home. If they wander out, they can see the fire and come back. It is their axis mundi, their axis of the world. And it's the way that they make sense of the world. They're tethered to it. It's like planets in orbit. And so I think it's important to think about fire in that way, and that's why it's such a powerful symbol, and it always has been. It's been a symbol for cultures all around the world. They have eternal fires. Fires that they say never go out. And of course they do go out, but they go out when the culture dies, when there's no one around to keep tending the fire. And the same thing happens, in our lives. We create order in our world, we create what is knowable, we create everything that we can understand. We create rules, we give things names. And the names are for us. Names, the wood doesn't need a name to exist. This dirt doesn't need a name to exist. Those are for us. Those are for us to make sense of the world. And that's what fire does. Fire helps us make sense of the world. So we can use it as a symbol for the way that we make sense of our lives. What is important to you? You think about people gathering around the fire. They gather around the fire to celebrate their friends, their family, their culture, things that have always meant something to them. So fire becomes a symbol for meaning, and meaning and culture are basically the same thing. It's our meaning, our people's meaning, our tribe's meaning, our family's meaning. And that's why people have always gathered around fires like this. And they've always been very important and meaningful to them. And that's why we call the Order of Fire the Order of Fire. Because the purpose of the Order of Fire is to replicate that culture and that meaning, to create it for ourselves in the way that all of these men all around the world, throughout history, cavemen, All throughout time, they created these fires. Those fires symbolize home and warmth and light and understanding. Their understanding of the world, their story of the world. You know, a friend of mine the other day, C.B. Robertson, he said that our ritual fire, the order of fire, is the forge of the gods. You know, look at the shadows behind me, like in Plato's cave. You can imagine around a fire, people telling stories, and those stories getting bigger and more fantastic. And those stories become myths. And the myths become the stories that people live by, that guide their lives. You know, I wrote a piece the other day that said, you know, all myths are inherently ridiculous. You know, all stories about the world and how it formed are inherently ridiculous, but we need a story. We need a myth in our lives. And that's what I think a lot of modern men have been missing. You know, we went through this period where we thought that science was going to figure everything out for us. And science was going to give us the story. And then just very recently, a lot of people realized that science also lies, or the scientific method doesn't necessarily lie, but the people who say, what is science? They have their own interests. And so science can become a myth as well. Not in its purest form, but the people who are in charge of saying what science is, they can tell us lies, and they do. Man is a creature that needs a story, and a story that helps him make sense of the world. And at the center of that has always been fire. Sometimes it's the beginning of the myth. There's a lot of myths that start with fire and water, which is inherently ridiculous. But it's magical. And I think that men need magic and myth and a beautiful story in their lives. And that's what the fire symbolizes to us. And we can use the fire to symbolize our values, because we create values. They don't come from anywhere else. Men create values. What's important to me? What's important to us? What are our shared values? And then the fire symbolizes that too. It becomes a pillar, the central pillar, and a sacred pillar. You know, Mircea Eliade, when he talked about a myth and the Axis Mundi, what's at the center is the most important. Whether it's a church, it's the most holy, the most sacred. It embodies all of your values. And the further you get away from that, you move into the profane world, into the darkness. And you become confused. You know, at the last fire ritual I did, I talked about the idea of integrity. And integrity just means wholeness, really. That all the parts make sense together. And the opposite of integrity could be considered disintegration. I never thought of those two words going together, but disintegration, you know, we imagine just look, the fire just disappears, goes away. You see in movies, people just turn into dust. And we feel that happening to ourselves in the modern world. There's so many inputs pulling us this way and that way. And we need a fire to come back to maintain integrity. That's really what it symbolizes. So, those are my thoughts on fire and and why it's such an important symbol, and why I called my organization the Order of Fire. Because we're men who are trying to reestablish order and light and warmth and values in a world where all of those have disintegrated. Because we want to be men of integrity. So, take a moment to think about how important fire has been to men and what a powerful symbol it is. If you want to learn more about the symbol of fire and what it's meant to man throughout the ages, read my book, Fire in the Dark, and consider joining the Order of Fire at orderoffire.com.